Hey everybody, welcome to a Cricut craft tutorial. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos all the time. Hit the bell icon because that'll alert you to when I post a new video. Today I want to show you guys how we're going to do a mini stencil with acrylic paint. Lots and lots of great stenciling tips, so if you're struggling with your stencil, be sure to watch. So let's get over to Design Space and make our little stencil. We're going to make some really quick stencils just to use on our little leaf. So all we're going to do is just open some text. I already have this set to the text I want to use. I'm going to use Magnolia Sky. So we're going to do fall and y'all. And here's the quick trick with Magnolia Sky to get the letter spacing. 9 times out of 10, when you go to letter space, it's going to be a -1.2 to get the Magnolia Sky in the right spacing. And this is not true for all of your script fonts, but for a lot of them this works. So what you do is you go up to letter spacing and click on it, and it's going to put you right in front of the 1. Put the negative sign and hit enter. There you go. Instantly sized. Now I need to ungroup these to lines because I need to make sure that they're going to fit. So you're going to use advanced, ungroup to line, and I know that I can't go too big with these. I can probably go about 2 inches. So we're definitely going to size them down. And it's okay if they're not 100% the same size because we're going to put them in different angles on our little leaf to make sure that they fit. The leaf is kind of an awkward shape, so it's perfect to use these for that reason. Now you want to make sure you weld this because then it will come off all as one piece. So click weld on y'all and click weld on fall. We're going to click make it. And I'm going to need to move this over because it's too close and I need that little edge around the stencil so that I don't get paint on the leaf. So you can just click on your item on your mat and just move it around. It's super easy. Hit continue, and we're just going to cut this on permanent vinyl, so nothing too crazy. So you're going to select vinyl. This is perfect for scraps because you can see, and I'll show you guys again, this only takes about a 2x6 piece, which 9 times out of 10 we all have a random scrap laying around. So that I'm going to use a scrap piece. You guys don't need to watch it cut. You've seen it cut a million times. So I'm going to cut this vinyl out and we can get ready to paint. So unlike when you would do this for a decal, you're going to actually weed out your words and not the background. That's where a lot of people get a little bit confused when doing a stencil. So this one we are going to just pull out of our words, which you want to make sure that you're careful because you don't want to pull out the center. And you can see that it's trying to lift this part right here. And I don't know how you guys can see that, but it is trying to lift this part right here. So we're going to try to make sure that stays down, and we're just going to put our little pick tool on that, and hopefully it will stay down. So we're going to just take our tool and we're just going to go around again very carefully and see, like, it does want to lift a lot of this little stuff. And I don't know how you guys can see this. I should have done this on a different color, but I had white as my scrap piece. So when it wants to do that, you can just use your little pick tool. Don't stab it, because see, it's lifting this one. You don't want to stab it. I use just the edge of it and I press it down and hold it as I pull. And it's probably going to want to do that to a lot of this just because it is fairly small. So we're going to do the fall with the big F here. And again, it's trying to lift the center. So a lot of times what I can do, especially like right now where the vinyl got stuck under it a little bit, again, just hold it down with your finger. And I'm betting it's going to try to lift this little centerpiece. So for something like that, I would make sure that I peel the rest of it and don't do that one until the very end of the letter. Some of this is just a matter of practice and trial and error and learning what works for you, and what works for some may not work for others. So don't fret if something that someone says, oh, this works perfectly, do it this way, and it doesn't work for you. Just try and try and try, and eventually you will find what works. Like, see, this one didn't work. So what I'll do with that, I usually will just place it myself and just generally get it where it should kind of be, because nobody's going to notice if it's not 100% like centered and perfect. So that's probably relatively close to where it needs to be. but it does want to lift these, and honest to God, a lot of times it's just because of these little letters, and that's just one of those things that you have to deal with. Now, because I have the two L's next to each other, I can see that this isn't over quite far enough, so you can pull it back up and move it where you want it, and that looks pretty even now, so we're going to leave it there. Now what you need to do is cut these in half, and we're going to put some transfer tape on them. I've just used contact paper from the Dollar Tree for this because it's just a quick, simple stencil. A lot of people complain that they have a hard time getting their vinyl to stick to wood. I have done absolutely nothing to this. This is a Target Dollar Spot wood ornament. I bought it right at the end of fall, so I have done nothing to it. I have not put any Mod Podge, no polyacrylic, nothing on it. All I did was just use permanent vinyl and a scraper and some contact paper. So all you're going to do is just peel it right off. Now with something like this, you do want to make sure that all of your edges are well sealed. So when we peel them off, as soon as we're done, what we're going to do is go back over the whole thing with our finger. And we do that to make sure that none of the bubbles are there. And for some reason my contact paper decided to rip, but that's okay. No big deal. Don't worry too much about that, but we'll press it down anyways just to be safe. But what I do is I go through and I just press it with my hand. You'll have people telling you Mod Podge it, polyacrylic, put like 3 layers of Mod Podge on. If you do this the right way, you don't have to do any of that. Use a decent quality wood, use light layers of paint, and make sure that your stencil is well down. Now I do use an overhead light, and I will tilt and move my project around just to see if there are any bubbles. There are none that I can see, but if you see any, you can press them out. This is also a little difficult because these are very close to the edge, so you'll want to be careful with that. Now we are using a Deco Art metallic paint in berry. I have no idea how this is going to look. This was really just an excuse to use this paint because I liked it and I wanted to play with it. So we're going to use that, and we're going to use this small stencil brush from Martha Stewart. This one, I don't know what size this one is, but I do recommend using a stencil brush and not a brush from like the sponge brushes. Those hold too much paint. So what you're going to do is dab your paint on, dab it off. I'm using some freezer paper and just going to carefully dab my paint onto my project. You don't want a lot of paint. You can come back through. We're going to let the first layer dry for just a moment or two, and we'll come back in with a second layer. Now, my brush has been well loved, so I have to be careful around the edges of my stencil because the brush isn't exactly in perfect shape. So you'll want to note if you need new brushes because they won't make this weird, like see how I'm getting kind of a splattery pattern around the sides. You won't have the splattery pattern. Now when you go back in for more paint, use the spots where you dabbed off your paint before you go into a spot and get more paint from the big original paint blob, if you will. I don't know what else to call it. So what I'll do is I'll go back, I'll dab off a little again, and you just dab it on. Now this will take a couple of layers, so you'll want to make sure you go with light layers. If you look very closely at mine, and I don't know how well you guys can see that, but it's not fully covered. And don't worry, that's okay, because when we come back in through, we will get it fully covered as we go. But you just want to make sure that you're not putting too much paint on, and that's where a lot of people's bleed comes from. That and too much like wiping it on. You don't want to brush it on. You want to dab, and you want to dab straight up and down. You will end up with beautiful projects if you follow these directions. I have stenciled 1,000 things. I have little to no paint bleed on every project I do. So I am definitely confident in the directions that I give you guys on these. I would not tell you to do these things if they did not work. Now that's not to say that you will not have your struggles, because you will, and everyone does, because crafting is a learning curve. Sometimes it's just a matter of figuring out exactly what you want to do. Now I do pick mine up and look at it and just make sure, especially with these thinner lines, that everything is covered. And I do that before I get ready to peel the stencil. I am going to let this dry for just a moment. And I do peel mine wet, or at least fairly wet. I do that mostly so that I can make sure that I'm not going to get any bleed. With these thinner lines though, we're going to let this dry for a few minutes. So let's let this dry for just a couple minutes and we'll come back. I let this dry probably about 5 minutes, so not too terribly long. So I'm going to go ahead and peel it off. Now when you're peeling it off, you do want to be careful. Obviously you don't want to just like rip it off. But what I'll do sometimes when I do these is I will, well apparently this one I won't, but a lot of times I will trim off like this excess just so that I don't end up getting paint everywhere, but it's pretty easily ripped, so I think we're okay just to, oh, see, there we go. Now make sure you don't put that on like your pants or stuff. Like I tend to put my weeding extras on my pants, and well, don't do that with the painted stuff because it is still wet. Now the middle sections are a little bit harder to get rid of, so I'm going to let those sit for just another moment. We're going to go ahead and do the fall part, and we're just going to easily, carefully peel. And again, you just want to be careful, and if you do get it on your finger, just be sure you're not touching your project with like wet paint, because I got a little bit on my finger, so we're going to be careful not to touch our project with wet paint finger. And what we can do now is come in with our weeding tool and pull out some of these extra pieces. You're going to want to make sure not to grab the piece on the edge, but to grab the piece kind of in the like edge center. I don't know how else to describe that, but not the edge, because you're going to end up with paint under it. And once you get it up just enough, you can pull it with your hand. This again is one of those things that it just is going to take you guys some time to find your technique and learn what works best for you. But this is a project that does require a good amount of patience and understanding when it comes to the fact that it may not be perfect the first time you do it. But if you keep trying, you will get there. Now that one just fell on my new floor, so I'm going to grab that because, Hopefully by now you guys have seen our new filming area, but I don't know if I will have a video up yet of that. But we have redone the entire craft room, so we are very excited to have a new filming area for you guys. And I don't know when this video will be posted, so it might already have been up. But if not, we redid the floor, we repainted, added lighting. So we are now a legit tutorial channel a year later. And we're getting all our middles up. Now, like I said, the paint is relatively dry, but there are still wet spots. But you guys can see, hopefully, how nicely this came out. Now, there is this little bump right here, but that's actually just paint, so be careful with that. We're going to let that dry. And I'm going to actually turn this way so that I don't accidentally touch that. Now, I will say I could have made these bigger, and measuring sometimes doesn't always work out the way I want it to, especially on these odd shaped ones. So what I'll do is I'll probably go in and add some little extras to it, especially if I was giving this as a gift. But since it's just mine, I will probably just leave it alone. But once this paint dries, you could easily add a little something extra if you wanted to it, some flourishes, you know, something that kind of goes with the theme or goes with whoever you're giving it to or your house. Decor, things like that. Now I did drop another piece, so I'm going to be really careful. But this is our finished product. I think it came out so darn cute, you guys, and this paint is amazing. I'm going to go get some different lighting so you guys can see this better, and we'll be right back. Here is our finished product. Again, this is a metallic paint, so there is some shine to it. So you guys can see it's really shiny, really, really pretty. This is a simple, easy project to do. Stenciling is not hard nor scary. It just takes a little bit of practice. Keep trying. Make sure you're using a nice piece of wood. This is a little bit rough, but nothing too crazy. Make sure that you're using a stencil brush, not a foam brush, so something like this. Light layers of paint, and make sure that your stencil is down well. If you do all those things, there is no need for all those extra steps with the Mod Podge and the polyacrylic. If you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below. I'm always happy to answer those for you. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos all the time. Hit the bell icon. That'll alert you to when I post a new video. Have a great day and happy crafting.